People think CEOs fear competition, or recession, or bad press. I only fear one thing, the moon every month. When the calendar whispers Beaver Moon, I leave the boardroom lights behind and disappear into the woods like a fugitive. My assistant thinks I'm on a silent retreat weekend. My shareholders think I'm networking off-grid. Truth is, I'm saving their lives because under that orange gold disc, I stopped being Alex Reyes, founder of Reyes Global Tech. I become something that remembers blood better than names. It started 5 years ago, the night I signed the merger that made me a billionaire. I'd celebrated too hard, driven into the mountains to clear my head. I remember the crash, the glass, the thing that bit me before I passed out. Since then, every full moon drags the beast out of my skin, so I built a cabin far from signal or road. Reinforced steel doors, chains thick enough to anchor a ship, tranquilizer syringes lined up like trophies. I always thought control was my superpower. The moon taught me otherwise. Tonight, the air already hums. November's Beaver Moon, the one that glows fat and low like molten copper, rises early and my bones begin to ache before sunset. I lock the doors, bolt the windows, chain my wrists and throat. The metal smells like fear and rust. I whisper the same prayer I've whispered 72 times. Let me wake up human. Let me remember who I am. The forest outside answers with silence. Hey there, my wonderful family and friends. Welcome back. If you're ready to dive into today's story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I love seeing where everyone's watching. And guess what? There's another amazing story coming your way tomorrow. One you definitely don't want to miss. Alright then, let's get started. At first, it's just pressure in my spine. A heat crawling up my throat, then comes the tearing. Skin stretching, teeth lengthening. The chain creaks, my breath shortens into growls. Control slips like sand through fingers. I remember nothing after that, only flashes. The snap of metal, a roar that shakes dust from the rafters, and the sudden, terrifying knowledge that something or someone is near the cabin. Later, I'll learn her name was Maya Santos. 24, photographer, curious, reckless in the way only the young and kind can be. But that night, she was just a scent, wildflowers, rain, and something I didn't recognize. Peace. She and her friends had come camping for moonlight aesthetic shots, she'd said. They'd gotten lost, signal gone, laughter turning into nervous shouts. When she saw my chimney smoke, she followed it, hoping for a ranger station. I was already half changed when she knocked. Hello? Her voice called through the wind. Is someone in there? Through the haze of hunger, I heard the doorknob rattle. The hinge groaned, light spilled in. A narrow beam, cutting through the dark, landing right on me. She steps inside, sees chains, hears breathing. The flashlight shakes. A dog? She whispers, poor thing. The beast inside me growls. She takes one hesitant step closer, hand outstretched. The sound of the chain snapping is the loudest thing I've ever heard. I remember lunging, wood splintering, metal clanging. She falls back, screams, scrambles for the door. The monster reaches her, claws inches from her throat. Then, contact her wrist, warm skin, pulse quick, alive. The world stops, pain floods backward, bones resetting, fur retracting. My heart slams against ribs as human breath forces its way out. The beast evaporates like smoke when I open my eyes. I'm kneeling on the cabin floor, naked, shaking, human. She's pressed against the wall, trembling. What are you? I want to answer, but words stick to my tongue. My body burns with shame, cold, confusion. I grab the blanket from the cot. Wrap it around me. Don't be afraid, I say. Though my voice sounds broken, I'm not. I glance at the shattered chain, at claw marks on the wood. I'm not dangerous now. She stares at me like she's seeing a ghost learn to breathe. The wind howls outside, rattling loose shingles. I move toward the door, every instinct telling me to run before she calls for help, before anyone sees what I am, but something about her stops me. The scent still lingers, wildflowers, rain, memory. It's tethering me to sanity. I need to keep you safe, I whisper, locking the door from the outside. You can't leave until morning. Her voice snaps like a whip. You're locking me in? It's safer for both of us. For who, exactly? Her words slice through the dark, but I can't explain the hunger, the curse, the danger if I lose control again. I just turn the key. Every click echoing guilt through my skull. Outside, the forest exhales, the Beaver Moon hangs heavy between clouds, bright enough to paint silver veins across the ground. I lean against the cabin wall, breathing in damp earth and pine. Forcing my heartbeat to slow inside, I hear her pacing, muttering to herself, testing the windows. I can almost picture her expression, anger mixed with fear, curiosity already fighting to take over. She's brave, that much I know, maybe too brave. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't wake up in blood for the first time. Someone stopped the beast, and I don't even know her name. If you're listening to this, you're probably wondering why I didn't just walk away that night. I packed up, started the car, even reached the road, but halfway down the mountain, my chest tightened, my hands shook. The scent of her skin lingered on mine, and I realized something terrifying. I didn't just need her to survive the curse. I needed her to remember who I was. That's how the story begins. With a monster saved by a stranger he couldn't forget. Sunlight hurts, not because I'm some vampire cliché. It just means I survived another full moon. Every time I wake human, there's a moment of disbelief. The kind that makes you check your hands, your teeth, your pulse. This morning, though, the disbelief had a name. Maya. Through the cracked cabin door I could see her, sitting by the cold fireplace. She hadn't slept. The flashlight had burned out hours ago, but she'd found candles, maybe from my emergency stash. Her hair, dark, tangled, a halo of defiance, caught the gold light like smoke. When she noticed me watching, she didn't scream, didn't bolt. She just said, "You owe me an explanation?" I poured water from a steel jug, washed the dried blood from my wrists where the chains had cut in. She flinched when the metal clanged, but didn't look away. "You think I'm crazy," I said. "I think I saw something impossible," she replied. "A wolf that turned into a man, you, chained up like you were trying to protect people from yourself. So yeah, crazy doesn't quite cover it." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled on the mug of instant coffee I made her. I respected the courage it took to sit there. "I'm not dangerous now," I said quietly. "At least, Not until the next moon, she raised an eyebrow. That's comforting, I tried to smile. It felt wrong on my face. You should eat something. There's food in the cabinet. She hesitated, then said, You said last night it was safer if I stayed. Are you still planning to keep me locked up? No. I handed her the key. The door's open. I'm trusting you. She looked at the key, then at me. You trust me because I saw what you really are? Because you didn't run when you should have. We stepped outside. The forest steamed under the weak sun, everything wet and clean. Like the world had reset. No tracks, no blood. Just the faint smell of iron from the broken chains. She wrapped her jacket tighter. My friends must be looking for me. I should get back. I'll walk you until we find the trail, I offered. Partly guilt, mostly fear if she disappeared into the woods. What if something else found her? Half a mile in, she stopped. You're limping. Old wounds, I said. From what? Chasing deer or shareholders? I laughed. First time in years. It startled both of us. She smiled. And something flickered in my chest. Familiarity, like déjà vu humming under my ribs. We reached a clearing where the road curved down toward the valley. Her phone finally found a signal. She called her friends, voice breaking with relief. I turned away to give her privacy, staring at the mountains layered in fog. When she hung up, she said, They're safe. They'll meet me by the highway. Good, I said. You should go. She studied me for a long moment. You're not coming? I can't. Too many questions, too much I can't answer. She folded her arms. You could at least tell me your name. Alex? Alex what? I hesitated. Reyes? Her eyebrows lifted. As in Reyes Global Tech? The billionaire with a private island and a scandal about solar patents? I grimaced. That's the public version. Well, she said slowly, I guess even billionaires have full moon problems. She turned to leave, then stopped. When you changed last night, you looked at me like you knew me. I'm not sure, I admitted. Maybe I dreamed you before. She gave me a look halfway, between disbelief and wonder. If you ever figure it out, find me, I'd like to know too. And then she was gone, her bright jacket flashing between the trees until it disappeared. I stayed in the cabin another day, replaying every second. Her scent still lingered on the blanket, grounding me, keeping the leftover hunger quiet. By the time I drove back to the city, I'd convinced myself she was a miracle I'd imagined. Work waited, as it always does. Conference rooms, espresso machines, screens full of numbers that no longer meant anything. My assistant Victor lectured me about missing meetings. PR had another crisis. I nodded through it all, half present, until I saw the newspaper on his desk, front page. Local photographer rescues lost friends in forest after full moon night. Her photo, Maya, smiling shyly beside her friends. Camera around her neck hit me harder than the transformation ever had. The caption read, Maya Santos, 24, rising visual artist. I stared at that name until the letters blurred. That night I dreamed, not the usual nightmare of claws and blood, but a rooftop, music, and laughter. A younger version of her camera flashing in the dark. My own voice saying, You owe me a picture. CEO. And then moonlight reflecting in her eyes like it had been waiting for me. I woke shaking, sweat cold on my skin. It wasn't a dream. It was a memory. I tried to bury it under spreadsheets and charity dinners, but the closer the next full moon crept, the more restless I became. I stopped sleeping. I started hearing the woods even in the city, howls under the traffic hum, and always her scent, like rain on hot pavement, just out of reach. Finally, I gave in. I found her website, small portfolio, breathtaking images of nature, light, shadows. One photo stopped me, the exact cabin, glowing under moonlight, captioned, Beaver Moon, 2023. She'd gone back, or at least she'd wanted to remember. I knew what that meant. She was part of the story now, whether she believed in curses or not, and if she really was the key to my humanity. I couldn't stay away. The night before the next full moon, I packed the chains again, loaded tranquilizers, and drove back toward the forest. Every mile felt like returning to a confession I'd left unfinished. I told myself it was precaution, that if the chains came again, I needed her near to survive, but deep down, I knew it was something simpler. I wanted to see her as the sun dipped. The air filled with that strange electric charge the forest gets before the moon rises. I parked near the trailhead, looked up at the orange rim crawling over the horizon, and whispered, "Let me remember her, somewhere beyond the trees." A camera shutter clicked. If you are enjoying the story so far, click on that subscribe button for more engaging stories like this. By the time I reached the forest again, the air already smelled like storm and iron. Signs the moon was near. I parked a mile from the cabin, took the keys from the ignition, and sat there, listening to the engine tick, itself quiet. The radio whispered some late-night bolero. For a second, I almost believed I was a normal man waiting for a lover, instead of a creature waiting for a cage. When I finally stepped out, the world had turned the color of pewter. Branches swayed, whispering things I didn't want to hear. I followed the old trail, boots sinking into wet soil, breath fogging in the cold, and then I saw it, the cabin, lonely as confession, a faint light glowing inside. Someone was there. At first I thought hunters or kids from town. Then I saw the silhouette, small frame, camera strap around her neck. Maya, she jumped when she heard me. "Alex?" Her voice trembled between surprise and relief. "You came back," she said. "I wasn't sure you were real." "I could say the same about you," I answered. "Why are you here?" "I had to see it again. The place, the night." She hesitated. "To convince myself it actually happened." Inside, her gear was spread across the table. Lenses, batteries, notebooks full of sketches. She'd been studying the cabin like an archaeologist cataloging myth. "I've been photographing the moon cycles," she explained, "trying to understand what happened to you. I thought maybe it's scientific? Magnetic fields, lunar energy, something that triggered your brain." I smiled weakly. "You think there's logic behind turning into a monster?" "I think there's always logic, even for monsters." Her certainty made something inside me ache. We talked for hours about her lost year after that night, how her friends had moved on but she couldn't, about my failed attempts to cure myself. Doctors, shamans, gene therapy, nothing worked. At some point she asked, "Why did you really come back?" I told her the truth. "Because you're the only thing that's ever stopped it." She went quiet, staring at the fire. "And if I can't again, then you run. Don't look back." Her eyes lifted to mine. "What if I don't want to?" The clock ticked louder than our breathing. Dusk slid into full night. Clouds tore open. The Beaver Moon began its climb. I felt the first pulse of pain behind my eyes, that crawling heat spreading through my ribs. "It's starting," I gasped. "You should go," she shook her head. "I'm not leaving you, Maya. No. We need to know if it's real. If I can help," I wanted to argue. But my hands were already shaking. I stumbled to the corner, fastening the chains, locking the collar. The sound of metal biting metal. "Stay behind the table," I told her. "If anything happens, run to the cellar, bar the door." She stepped closer instead. "You don't have to face it alone." The pain hit like lightning through bone. My vision blurred, world narrowing to scent and sound. Her heartbeat, the cedar smoke, the moon through the window, cruel and perfect. I heard the roar before I realized it came from me. Chains strained, wood cracked. My human thoughts slipped, drowned under the beast's surge. Everything red, gold, endless. And then, her hand, soft, shaking, touching my face. The smell of her skin cut through the madness. Warmth flooded me like air after drowning. I clung to that pulse, that memory of a rooftop years ago. Laughter against city lights, bones reversed, nails retracted. The monster dissolved in the space between heartbeats. When it was over, I collapsed at her feet. Gasping, human again, she knelt beside me. Eyes wet but calm. "You're okay." It worked. I stared at her in disbelief. "You shouldn't have done that. It could have killed you, but it didn't," she whispered. And now we know. We sat on the floor wrapped in blankets. The fire crackling low, I could smell her shampoo, the faint trace of fear still in her pulse. But beneath it, trust. She asked softly, "What did you feel when you changed?" "Everything and nothing," I said. "Rage, hunger, grief, then you touched me. And it all disappeared." She traced the broken cuff with her fingers. "Maybe it's emotional, not chemical. Maybe something about your brain associates me with safety." "I barely know you," I said. "How could that be?" "Maybe we met before." Her words hit me like a forgotten melody. A flash, her younger, smiling under city lights. But when I reached for the memory, it scattered near midnight. We both drifted into uneasy sleep on opposite sides of the hearth. Dreams tangled through the smoke. A gala. Champagne, her laughter echoing through my head. When I woke, she was sitting by the window, camera in hand, photographing the dawn. "You should rest," I murmured. She smiled without looking back. "Can't." The light's perfect. I watched her silhouette framed against the pale sky. And for the first time since the curse began, I felt something like peace. If you've ever been saved by someone you didn't understand, you know the feeling, gratitude and fear twisted together. Like waiting for the other shoe to drop, but praying it never does. She said she wanted to study the phenomenon. Maybe help me find a real cure, I agreed, because it meant she'd stay. Because selfishness feels like survival when you've been a monster too long. Still, deep down, a voice whispered, "This isn't coincidence. This is destiny catching up." Before she packed her things, she turned to me and said, "I'm not scared anymore." "You should be," I told her. "Why? Because you could hurt me?" "No," I looked out the window at the fading moon. "Because I don't know what else I'll remember next." She didn't answer. She just lifted her camera and took my picture. Click, flash, silence. Later. I'd find that photo on her site titled "The Man Between Moons." At the time, I only knew one thing. I couldn't let her go again. If this moment gave you chills, hit that like button. And share what you'd do if the truth came out this way. When dawn fully arrived, Maya insisted we drive back to the city. You can't keep hiding in that cabin forever, she said. Maybe she was right. The world outside didn't know what prowled inside me. And I preferred to keep it that way. We loaded her camera gear, my chains, and a silence heavy enough to fog the windows. The forest disappeared behind us, but the scent of pine and her perfume stayed trapped in the car. A mixture that felt like memory itself, back in downtown San Marcos. Glass towers caught the morning sun like knives. I hadn't seen the place in weeks, yet it already felt foreign. Employees stared when I walked through the lobby. The CEO had vanished and returned with scratches on his neck, and a woman at his side. Maya waited near the elevators, taking everything in. Receptionists, digital screens, my name glowing in chrome. "So this is your cage," she murmured. "Golden, but yes," I said. In my office, she wandered to the window. "You rule half this skyline and still chain yourself up in the woods. Power doesn't mean peace," I answered. "Sometimes it just hides the noise." For 2 weeks we worked in secret. Maya studied my vitals, comparing photos of me before and after the moon. I kept journals of dreams, triggers, scents. She even convinced me to let her record video during the waxing phase. "For data," she said, though her eyes betrayed fascination more than science. Every night she'd ask, "Do you feel it yet?" "Not yet," I'd reply, though sometimes I lied. The pull always started early, in the muscles. The blood, the guilt. She discovered something curious. Each transformation scar healed faster when she was near. Her presence stabilized my pulse. Her laughter calmed tremors. I didn't know I had. I began to crave the sound of her voice the way a starving man craves bread. Then came the problem with secrets. They don't stay quiet forever. An investor spotted Maya leaving my office late one night. By morning, gossip blogs screamed, "Reclusive CEO's new muse." Paparazzi camped outside headquarters. Flashbulbs turning the lobby into lightning. Victor, my assistant, burst in waving his tablet. "You have to make a statement, Alex. The board's nervous." Maya looked mortified. "I never meant to cause trouble." I touched her shoulder. "You saved my life. Let them think whatever they want." But inside, the old dread coiled. Attention meant exposure. Exposure meant danger. That night I poured a drink and opened the album Maya kept on her tablet. Photos from her college years. One image froze me. A charity gala. Rooftop terrace. Strings of lights. Her smile caught mid-laugh, and beside her, me, younger, tuxedoed, glass in hand. Looking at her the way I still did, how did I forget this? I whispered. When she walked in, I turned the screen toward her. 5 years ago, she said softly. You sponsored the arts scholarship I won. We met for exactly 10 minutes. You told me to chase the light, remember? I did. The words fell back into place like puzzle pieces. That was the night before the accident, I said. Before I was bitten, her eyes widened. So the last human memory you kept was of me. We sat on the floor while the city hummed beyond the glass. I thought the curse erased everything good, I said. Maybe it just hid what mattered most. She studied me for a long time. When you changed in the cabin, you looked terrified, not of hurting me, of losing me. She wasn't wrong. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "I don't know what this connection is," I said. "But it's the only thing keeping me human," she whispered. Then we find out why. Days blurred into one long inhale before another Beaver Moon. We prepared like scientists before a storm, vitamins, restraints, emergency lights. But this time we stayed in the city penthouse, trusting reinforced walls instead of the forest. The night it rose, clouds parted, and gold light filled the room. I felt the tremor start. The beast stirring, Maya steadied me, pressing her palm to my chest. "Focus," she said. "Breathe." Her scent. Rain, cedar, warmth wrapped around me. The claws didn't come. The hunger dulled. For 10 miraculous minutes, nothing happened. Then lightning flashed outside. The power flickered. And the reflection in the window changed. Fur, eyes, fangs. "Get back." I yelled, but it was too late. The glass exploded outward. I tore through furniture. Chains ripping free, Maya screamed my name. But I was already gone, down the stairwell, into the storm. Into the city's underbelly. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was her silhouette, framed in shattered glass, reaching after me when I woke the next morning. Soaked and barefoot under a bridge, the newsfeed on a discarded phone screamed, "Beast attack in downtown San Marcos. Cameras capture mysterious creature." Images. Blurred but enough, my nightmare was now public. I stumbled home hours later. Maya was waiting, eyes red from crying. "You didn't hurt anyone," she said. "Just property damage. I followed you until you collapsed." I sank to the floor. Trembling, "I remember none of it." She knelt beside me. "But you came back to me again. That means something." I wanted to believe her. I really did, but as the city outside whispered monster, I couldn't shake the thought that I was dragging her into my curse. If you've ever tried to atone for something you can't control, you know the weight. It's like living under constant moonlight. You can't hide from it. You just hope someone sees the man. Not the shadow. For me, that someone was Maya. Even if the world found out, even if the board turned on me, I knew one truth. The curse wasn't finished, but neither were we. If this scene made you pause for a second, hit like, and tell me what you'd do differently if you were in their place. Mysterious creature seen near downtown. Authorities advise caution. Every channel showed the same shaky footage. A shadow leaping across rooftops. Claws glinting in lightning. My shadow. By noon, Beast of San Marcos trended everywhere. Investors panicked. Police helicopters scoured industrial zones. And every conspiracy theorist online decided I was proof of government experiments. I spent the day in the penthouse, curtains drawn, suitcases half packed. Maya sat at the table editing photos, jaw clenched. "We can't stay here," she said. "Someone will recognize you. Where would we go?" "Anywhere the moon can't find you," I smiled bitterly. "It finds me everywhere." We left that night. Maya had friends up north, a ranch near the border. Endless desert sky, no city lights. "No cameras," she said. We drove through the dark. Headlights carving tunnels through fog. I watched her hands on the wheel, steady even as sirens howled somewhere behind us. "At a rest stop," she asked. "Do you ever wonder why you survived that bite?" "Every day. Maybe it wasn't random," she murmured. "Maybe it chose you because you met me." I laughed quietly. "You think destiny has a sense of humor?" She didn't answer, She just kept driving. By dawn, the city was a smear in the mirror. We reached the ranch, a stretch of land dusted with mesquite and silence. Maya's friend, Rosa, greeted us without questions. "Stay as long as you need," she said, eyes lingering on the bandages on my wrists. We unpacked what little we had, camera, journals, the chains. The air smelled of rain and old earth. For the first time in months, I breathed without hearing engines or whispers. Days blurred into quiet routines. We fixed fences, cooked over fire, watched sunsets at night. Maya studied lunar charts while I wrote in a notebook. Symptoms, triggers, dreams. One evening, she found an old article online about my accident 5 years ago. "Listen," she said. "The driver who hit you reported seeing a woman in the road. Dark hair, blue jacket. They never found her." I frowned. "I don't remember any woman." Maya scrolled further, her voice softening. "I had that jacket. I was there, Alex. I was the one in the road." The world tilted. "That's impossible. I was coming back from that same rooftop gala. My car broke down. You swerved to avoid me. You crashed. The thing that bit you, it attacked both of us. But I got away before it reached me." Her hand shook. "I should have told you sooner." I sat in stunned silence. The curse, the bite, the memory gap, it all began with her. "That night tied us together," I said slowly. "The moment I saw you again at the cabin, my body remembered. You weren't the cure. You were the cause, the connection." Tears slid down her cheeks. "So this is my fault?" "No," I took her hand. "Whatever happened made you immune and me cursed. But that link, your scent, your touch, it doesn't just stop the monster. It reminds me of who I was before it," she whispered. "Before the bite, you told me to chase the light." I smiled faintly. "Looks like you caught it. Peace never lasts." 3 nights later, headlights crawled up the dirt road. Rosa ran in, breathless. "Government men. They say they're here about some biological security concern." I felt the blood drain from my face. The media had led them straight to me. Maya grabbed my arm. "We have to go." We fled out the back into the open desert. Helicopter beams sliced through the dark. Voices shouting orders. She ran ahead, camera bag bouncing against her hip. I followed the rhythm of her heartbeat until we reached an old windmill. Half collapsed. "Hide here," she gasped. The ground trembled. Pain exploded through me. Moonlight spilled from behind clouds. The cycle had started early. "Not now," I groaned. "Maya, get away." She refused. "No, if they see you like this, they'll kill you." The transformation ripped through me before I could answer. Chains wouldn't have mattered out here. I dropped to my knees, the beast clawing its way out. The sound drew the helicopters closer. Maya stepped forward, fearless, tears streaking her face. "Alex, remember me." Her voice cut through the roar. The wolf halted, muscles trembling. I smelled her, sweat, fear, the faint trace of lavender. Memory flooded back, the crash. The moon, her body framed in headlights. I remembered everything. I had carried her in my arms after the crash. Blood on my shirt, promising she'd be okay. The bite came when I turned to find help, the beast striking from the trees. She'd opened her eyes just long enough to whisper my name. That moment had burned itself into the curse. That's why her scent was the key. The creature in me understood before I did. It lowered its head when she reached out. It let her. Her hand touched my snout. Warmth bled through fur and bone, then the pain reversed. Fire turning to water, the change recoiled. The beast fading until only I remained human, gasping in the dust. The helicopters circled overhead, confused by the empty field. Rosa had switched off the farmhouse lights. We crouched in shadow until they left. When silence returned, I looked at Maya, still holding my hand. "You saved me again," I whispered. She smiled weakly. "Maybe I just reminded you of the promise you made that night." "What promise?" "To live," she said. "You said you'd find me when the moon was full." I laughed quietly, half sobbing. "Looks like I finally kept it." We stayed there until dawn. The desert air cold enough to sting. The curse had changed, muted, maybe ending. I could feel it. The hunger was gone. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "What happens now?" "I don't know," I said. "But for the first time, I'm not afraid to find out if you've ever been haunted by your past. Remember, sometimes the thing that cursed you is the same thing that can set you free. All it takes is recognition and love strong enough to turn a monster back into a man. If this story reminded you that love costs nothing, like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there needs to hear this today." Morning came like a slow confession. Maya and I walked back toward the ranch. Clothes torn, faces streaked with dust. Rosa met us halfway, relief breaking across her face. "They're gone," she said. "No one saw you, for once. No one had to die to buy us another sunrise." Inside, Maya made coffee while I stared at my hands. No fur, no trembling, just scars that looked almost healed. When she handed me a mug, she said, "You're still you." "I keep waiting for the hunger," I whispered. "But it's quiet." She touched the back of my neck with a collar used to rub raw. "Maybe you've carried enough pain by the next week." We knew hiding couldn't last. Rumors faded. The footage dismissed as a hoax. The world moved on. Monsters only hold attention until the next headline. Rosa hugged us goodbye, pressing a cross into my palm. "Don't run from the light," she said. Why? We drove east through plains that smelled of dust and forgiveness. The city skyline rose like a mirage glass noise, life continuing as if nothing had happened. When we reached my penthouse, the locks still worked. Inside, dust motes floated in the slanted sun. I opened the curtains wide, the way I hadn't dared in years. The place smelled human again. Victor showed up an hour later. He looked me over like a man seeing a ghost. "You vanished," he said. "The board wanted your head. The press thinks you're sick." "I was," I said simply. "But I'm better now." He glanced at Maya. "And her?" "My partner," I said. The word felt right. "She helped me heal." Victor nodded slowly. "There's a charity gala tonight. The same arts fund you started. You should show your face. Remind them who you are." I laughed softly. A full circle then, that night. We stood again under the same strings of lights where I'd first met her years before. Music floated above the hum of voices, and for a second I smelled champagne. Not blood. Maya wore a simple black dress, camera slung over one shoulder as if it were armor. When the host spotted me, applause rippled through the crowd. I stepped to the microphone. "5 years ago," I said, "I made a mistake that nearly cost me everything. Tonight I stand here not as a businessman, but as proof that redemption is real." My voice shook, but the room listened. Sometimes the people who save us don't wear capes. They just remind us we're still human. When I stepped back, Maya was smiling. You meant that, every word. Later, we slipped onto the rooftop terrace. The city spread like stars below, the moon half full. Hung above the skyline, I watched it warily. Do you think it's over? Only one way to know, she said. She took my hand and lifted it into the light. Nothing happened. No pain, no change, only warmth where our skin touched. My reflection stayed mine, I think, I said, exhaling. That the curse broke when I remembered loving you before it began. She leaned her forehead against mine. Maybe love isn't the cure. Maybe it's the proof you're alive. Weeks turned into months. We moved out of the city, built a studio near the coast. Maya taught me to see through a lens instead of through fear. I taught her how to negotiate art grants. Sometimes we'd drive into the desert just to watch the moon rise. Every time its light touched me, I braced for the pain that never came. I learned to sleep with windows open, to breathe without counting heartbeats. Exactly 1 year after the last transformation, the Beaver Moon returned. We spent it at the cabin where it all began. The place smelled of ash and pine. The chains still hung from the rafters. Rusted and useless, Maya set up her camera. One last photo, she said. Proof. The moon rose huge and golden. Bathing the room in light, I looked at her through the glow. The same girl from my fractured memory, older now, braver. I used to think this moon hated me, I said. Now I think it was trying to lead me back, she smiled. Then let's give it a good ending. She clicked the shutter. The flash froze us in time. Her hand in mine, the moon above, no monsters left. If you've ever carried something that made you believe you were beyond saving, remember this. There is always someone whose light knows your darkness. Sometimes they find you when you're chained to your own mistakes. Sometimes they just hold your hand until the world stops shaking. For me, that person was Maya. For her, maybe I was proof that even the cursed can come home. The Beaver Moon rose higher, round and silent. I raised my face to it. Unafraid, no claws, no hunger, just the sound of her camera clicking once more. The sound of a story finally ending. Stories like this live longer when you share them. Like if you felt something, comment what you took away, and subscribe for more real stories that matter.
Thank you for watching all the way through. If this story moved you, the next one will surprise you in ways you won't expect. Go ahead and click the video on your screen. Your next story awaits.